the definition of a bot varies a lot from platform to platform. It's actually a big confusion in the marketplace, and I wish there were some standards, but there aren't. Some of the platforms call them like a single automation that maybe performs a function as a bot, whereas other ones use entirely different definitions. So, but in the case of Blue Prism, what it is, think of a bot as a unit of capacity. So it's able to process one automation 1 minute, and then another automation the next minute, and you keep processing until you run out of capacity or run out of time in the day to do it. So in that way, and that's kind of what Blue Prism is, they call them digital workers, because it's just like a person will go from one task to another task. A digital worker will go from one task to another task, and they can only do one thing at a time, and they take as long as it takes to process that. And when they're done, they can move on to the next one. If your other applications are available, this robot will run for you. They call it digital worker. We still kind of call it a robot, but they mean the concept of a digital worker. It used to be very easy to order a Blue Prism digital worker because they had one SKU. And with that one SKU, as long as you had one production robot, you could have as many test robots as you needed, as many development robots as you needed, as many developers as you needed. You could be replicating this across 10, 20, as many as were practically would use the application. But as long as you're only operating one in a production, one or more in a production environment. Now, this past year, it started to get a little bit more complicated because they started to introduce these product extensions. And sometimes the product extensions are just available with maintenance. Other times you can buy them separately if you want and bolt them onto either onto your on-prem environment. But at the core here, despite the extensions, the core is still the core. The digital worker is either an on-prem or a cloud robot, I say plus. You can always add. That's a rule that we got to remember. You can always put on more to whatever your order happens to be. Generally speaking, if you're going to buy the maintenance choices, that's something that you would a decision that you would probably make when you're doing your initial order. But I've seen clients add it later on because they want some of these extensions available. Blue Prism has 3 levels of maintenance. There's a basic level that just really gives you access to a knowledge base where you're going to have to hunt around and find whatever you need. Then they have a production support level or a business critical level. The production support is if you were running your business really within the time zone, you're not a global business where you needed 7/24, but you're just kind of running it during a typical day, 5 days a week. A couple hours before, a couple hours after the close of business. That would be the production support. That gets you a whole bunch of SLAs. And then on the business critical, which is 7/24, that gets you a whole lot more SLAs that are tighter, than the first one. So it does ramp up. It's just sort of a matter of what's right for your situation. But with either the production support or the business critical, then you get access to all these goodies that are these product extensions, and sadly, you don't get it with the basic. You don't really get that with the basic. Additional support is more about once you've got it in production and you're running it, coming across some unexpected outcome and that you're unable to resolve, they'll help you with that. I mean, I guess likewise, if you were in a development mode and you couldn't get it to work in development, you probably could call production support as well. But it's more designed for production, not development support. And Blue Prism uses a traditional model, so it's the more you buy, the longer you buy them for, the lower the price. Now, specifically within each region around the world, they have different base pricing based upon where the licenses are going to be installed and used. But generally speaking, it's volume and duration driven. Generally speaking, it's volume or duration driven. And then you have the decision of whether you're going to add maintenance or not. Okay, and then in the event that some of the extensions don't come with maintenance, then you have to make a decision of whether or not you want to buy them separately and tack them onto your order. Significant difference in price between the cloud and the on-prem. But with the cloud, you get everything. You get all the bits and pieces that that come with a robot, that could come with a robot. So, for example, they've got something called Interact, which is a forms capability that it integrates with if you got to have users in the loop. OCR comes with it. They've got a hub product that has analytics. They've got a product called IATA, which is pretty cool. It's a machine learning based tool that assigns the robot resources to the automations based upon the priorities that you set. So it's always kind of making sure that the most important things get done before the less important things do. They also have a whole bunch of other connectors that you can connect to. So the cloud is kind of, and of course they give you a hosted managed infrastructure to run it on, which is what you would expect on the cloud. So the cloud is like the Uber bundle that has just about everything in it, and then the on-prem is a smaller bundle, and obviously it's running on your infrastructure, not on Blue Prism's infrastructure. It shouldn't take that long to implement either one, to be perfectly honest. You've got the integration with the Active Directory and opening a port in the case of cloud versus loading it in and provisioning the servers on the on-prem. It's kind of like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. In my opinion, if you had a stop clock, one might be faster than the other, but in the scheme of implementation, the difference in time is in our opinion trivial. Well, you have a couple of different options for that, right? So, I mean, we are a reseller, and so we always encourage organizations to work with a reseller. Now, could they call Blue Prism and maybe get them to sell them a trial license for a period of time, or could you call, your handy dandy software reseller where you buy all your other software from? Yeah, you probably could do that too. But when you go down that option, you're missing out on all of the other value-added services that a services reseller would bring. So like the hardware store of software sales is not going to be able to help you implement it on your infrastructure. They're not going to be able to train you. They're not going to be able to coach you. They're not going to be able to help you reflect upon the backlog of automations that you're looking at. Like people think they might get a deal, when really you don't really get a deal, because I think actually the best pricing comes from the resellers, ironically. Certainly a global elite reseller like we are would have excellent pricing, but you're missing out on so many other features. Well, just like for example here, even just the pricing strategy of it, right? So you say, well, how many should I buy at any given point in time? Well, someone else might say, oh, well, you got to buy 100 of these, right? But, most people aren't going to use 100 of these, in an initial buy. So what we want to figure out is, because we have these breaks where it gets lower in price, we got to figure out how big is your capability likely to be, once you're kind of up and running in your organization. So what we want to do is we want to find the price break that's close to that capability, so that we could do a drawdown schedule against that. So let's just say 11 robots is a price break. Okay, so day one you're not going to use 11 robots, right? You're going to maybe use 3 robots or 4 robots in your first year. Then it's going to be maybe 6 or 7 in your second year, and then maybe 11 in the third year. Now everyone's different, and if you were charging hard and you had like an army of folks doing stuff, okay, yeah, you might use more than that. But that's kind of like a typical progression. So if by committing to the number of robots in the out year of the contract, you actually get the advantage of the price throughout the entire contract, so that it saves you money like that. And of course, there's no reason to commit much more than or any more, frankly, than the threshold, because you could always add to the order later on. So you're just taking on risk. If you're buying a lot of extra robots above and beyond the break, you're just taking on risk for your organization. So, and you can always, if you find that you're using more robots than you expected, we just take early delivery of the robots that we've already purchased, or we can just add on to the order. It's a very simple thing to do. Just that you add more robots or digital workers onto it, just as you might add maintenance if you didn't buy maintenance, or you may decide I'm starting with production support maintenance. Now I need business critical maintenance. Fine, you get an order to move you up. You can always, Blue Prism is awesome in that they'll always let you buy more. They'll always let you add on. Not so much in slowing down delivery, not so much in reducing the number of robots. I think that's just a function of them being a software company, and that's just how they run their business. It could be any that you like, but in reality, the discounts start at year 3. For the duration discounts start in the 3rd year, and then they get a little better if you buy 5 years. But if you called me up, Ed, and you said, I want to buy for 10 years, I'm sure I could work with Blue Prism, and we could create a special pricing program for you for that kind of long-term commitment. Well, you could just call us and we'll help you get started. You should do your research, right, to kind of understand. There's a lot of great information on our website with different strategies and different things to consider. I encourage you all to take a look at that. Generally speaking, if you're buying your initial order, you're probably done, you probably would do a proof of concept first, so we would work with you to get your trial license. A proof of concept that doesn't go into production can be served with a trial license. If you're beyond that phase and you're ready to start buying for production, as I said, I would take a look at your backlog. I'd say, okay, how many robots are we likely to consume? What's your ramp for adding automations into your capability? It's unfortunately, it's not really a science. It's kind of more of an art form, but there are some basic rules that apply. And then from there, we'd have a vision that says, okay, how many do I need to commit to each year to get me to that discount level that makes sense. The fulfillment of the order, we work with Blue Prism very closely, so we sort of have an expedited process. If you gave me an order today, I could have robots in your hand by the end of the day.